Now, one of Donald Trump's best friends, Ghislaine Maxwell, a convicted child sex trafficker. Not only has she been transferred to a low security prison, what we refer to as Club Fed, a luxury prison camp near Austin, Texas, and Bryant, Texas. But now, in new reporting, it looks like her classification has been upgraded to quote unquote out, meaning she's allowed to leave on work release. Not only is it a violation of the Bureau of Prisons' own manuals about convicted or even indicted sex offenders being allowed into a low security population, because the theory is unless they've been rehabilitated, they're going to prey and be predators inside the prison, right? It's like that old line. It's not about locking me in with them. It's about locking them in with me. So we got that first problem. Secondly, she's going to now be allowed to go out on work release into the town? What? And go work in a pottery shop? Go work in a coffee shop? Is she going to be out just conducting her business as usual, meaning a sexual predator on the prowl for young girls? Is she an appropriate candidate for work release? I'm Michael Popok. I've had it. I'm on Legal AF. I'm glad you're here. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. My eyes almost popped out. I was doing my recording of The Intersection, a podcast that I do on Tuesday nights about the Epstein matter and updating it. And I see all sorts of flashes going on that Ghislaine Maxwell is up for work release. I'm like, are you kidding me? So let's get down to it. Sheldon Whitehouse, a senator who's been on Legal AF before, from Rhode Island, just on the 7th of August, wrote a letter to the Bureau of Prisons, because that's who administers all things related to prisoners. Now, the Bureau of Prisons is inside of the executive branch, and it's the boss is ultimately for the BOP is the DOJ and its Attorney General, Pam Bondi. So you see where the corruption problem is, right? So what we can do when we have a party out of power like the Democrats is you write a lot of letters. I'm going to be frank with you. You write a lot of letters. You hold a lot of shadow hearings. You try to embarrass people where you can on the House or Senate floor. You do it during confirmation hearings. That's what you can do as the party out of power. You can't really get bills passed unless they're bipartisan. You can be obstructionist as you can. You can filibuster. You can do whatever you can, but you write a lot of letters. But Sheldon Whitehouse is the right person to be writing these kind of letters. He's on the right committees, including the Judiciary Committee for the Senate. And he wrote to Director William Marshall of the Federal Bureau of Prisons about the initial transfer. He didn't even get to the work release issue. The initial transfer violated Bureau of Prisons policies because the lowest in the food chain of security levels, the lowest security level that a sexual predator, convicted or even indicted, should ever be assigned to is minimum security, right? I'm sorry, I got it backwards. Is low security prison. The lowest security prison in the system is minimal security prison. She got moved from low to minimal. It's the wrong way. She's supposed to always be in a low security prison like she was in Florida, not given minimum. And now you see why. Besides the fact that it's all like bunks, like it's camp with low walls, you could just hop over. Got a bunch of celebrities there, like the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, the fraudster, she's in there, and Elizabeth Holmes, who defrauded hundreds of millions and billions of people in the Theranos scandal about that little pinprick blood evaluator that she set up in Walgreens or CVS's or whatever. Besides the fact she shouldn't be in there, there's a lot of young women in there. This is like sending the wolf and imprisoning the wolf for killing chickens and confining the wolf in the chicken coop. I mean, think about it. Wolf kills a chicken, and the penalty and punishment for that is you get to go live in the chicken house. So we're going to let her roam around freely in this minimal security camp, preying on women and girls, exploiting women and girls. And then if she runs out of inventory inside of this camp for her sexual deviant behavior, she gets to go on work release to go into town to go shopping. That's the only way to report this. The Christian right continues to support Donald Trump. It's still any religious person that continues to support Donald Trump needs to have their head examined, as my late mother would say. I mean, I don't know why we're surprised that she's available for work release, that her BOP classification is now out. Let her go work at Starbucks. Katie with a skinny latte. Yeah, Katie with a skinny latte better head the heck out of there when Ghislaine Maxwell's around. The Bureau of Prisons issue and classifications is so stringent that even if you're indicted or arrested for sexual assault, sexual abuse, rape, and you plead to something else like simple assault, you're still marked in the Bureau of Prisons as a sexual predator, sexual assault person for classification purposes. And what Sheldon Whitehouse's letter, which I'll post on Legal AF says, is that there are rationales and there are guidelines and rules for Bureau of Prison reclassification of a prisoner, but helping out the president cover his political ass is not part of that process. Congress has strong oversight into this, which is why he's getting involved with it. He also calls out the unusual nature of having the number 2 in the Department of Justice meet with a convicted child sex offender and sex trafficker to debrief her about what she may know and give her full immunity. All coming after Ghislaine Maxwell and or her family somebody leaked to the Wall Street Journal that Donald Trump included a pornographic birthday card in a leather-bound scrapbook 50th birthday album for Epstein, which was created or orchestrated by Ghislaine Maxwell. There's one theory, Michael Wolff, the journalist who joined us on Legal AF said, which is the Maxwell family released that as a warning shot to Donald Trump. You better hurry up with the consideration of my pardon, and you better have somebody meet and talk with me, or I could hurt you, or I can help you. So we're all trying to get to the bottom of the transfer in Bryan, Texas. But this new reporting now about Ghislaine Maxwell being available, what is she available for? Children's parties now? She can do a work release and operate as a clown for a children's party, or maybe she can babysit teenager slumber parties. To Donald Trump, nothing matters. We're watching the slow motion pardon of Ghislaine Maxwell. First step, try to rehabilitate her. Trump people, MAGA, right-wing, social media influencers for Donald Trump. Let's see if we can rehabilitate her as a victim. She's not a victim. Paul Engelmeyer, a federal judge, just issued a 38-page order the day before yesterday. I did a big hot take on it here on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit the free subscribe button. He said, you could tell the purpose of him writing his order denying the release of any grand jury materials about Epstein. Actually, about Ghislaine Maxwell. You could see his purpose was, let me remind everybody that she's not a saint. She's a convicted child sex trafficker sinner. Here's the 5 counts she was convicted of. Here's the evidence. Here's how she was sentenced. And he did it for the victims as well. There's 1,000 victims or more. There's more who were raped and sexually abused by Ghislaine Maxwell in combination with Jeffrey Epstein, who just happened to have the fortune of being best friends with Donald Trump, who's president of the United States, who has his own sex abuse history and misogyny history and sexual assault history. So you see what's happening here. And Paul Engelmeyer basically just said as a federal judge, release the damn files. You've got the mother lode, he called it. The mine load of documents about Epstein. Release them. So you have all of that happening, right? And then you've got, let's see if we can rehabilitate her as a victim. No, says federal judge Engelmeyer, I'm not going to allow you. Let's let right-wing media and Newsmax and Fox News keep calling her. Maybe she's a victim. She might be a victim. She's a victim. Then they trot out one of her best friends, Alan Dershowitz, without revealing to the public, because they never reveal the bias of the contributors they bring on for these interviews, that he not only represented as a Harvard law professor in a side practice, he not only represented Epstein in the negotiations with the federal government to obtain his slap on the wrist that would have stopped thousands of girls and women from being sexually abused by him. They gave him a non-prosecution agreement down in Miami. Dershowitz goes on to become best friends with Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer, David Oscar Marcus, in Miami. The prosecutor in Miami who rewarded Epstein with the sweetheart deal gets elevated and gets a promotion in Donald Trump's administration to be the Department of Labor Secretary. The cover-up started then. But when Dershowitz goes on television, he never says to anybody, I was accused of being a sexual abuser by one of the victims. I mean, she eventually sort of recanted. They had a lawsuit over it, but he never says that. He barely mentions that. Never talks about the fact that he represented Epstein. He never talks about his close personal relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyer, who he considers to be his little buddy, his little mentee, since they were in Harvard together. One a student, the other one a professor. He never says that. And he says, Ghislaine Maxwell's the Rosetta Stone. She knows everything. She should get a pardon. Yeah, to clean up the mess. There's also been reporting, we had Julie K. Brown, the intrepid reporter for the Miami Herald, that broke that story, that Alan Dershowitz is no saint himself, and that he hired lots of private investigators to go after the victims of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein's sexual, depraved, criminal conduct, to try to abuse them and intimidate them. So that's who's vouching for Ghislaine Maxwell. And as I said before, we're at a point in history where how low has Donald Trump sunk that he needs a convicted child sex offender to vouch for his character and his non-involvement in something. That tells you everything you need to know. And as a reward, she got a number of rewards. We can see it. This isn't Rubik's Cube. This is like a 4-piece giant puzzle, and I can see the 4 pieces. How did she get rewarded? For helping out Donald Trump with 12 hours of testimony with Todd Blanche, his favorite criminal defense lawyer? 1, she got immunity, queen for the day, and treated that way. 2, she got the transfer to the camp where she gets work release. And Donald Trump says to the American people and lies to the American people, I had nothing to do with it. Lie. 3, there's a pardon in the works, clemency, commutation of her sentence, something like that. What they're trying to do now, that's why they met Blanche and Bondi and Kash Patel of FBI, DOJ, J.D. Vance, probably Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Susie Wiles. They all met last Wednesday in a not-so-secret meeting where they discussed the problem, the communications problem that they're having with the Epstein scandal, because they refused to release the files that they promised the American people they would release. It's not a communications problem. What is this, Cool Hand Luke, the movie? We have a failure to communicate? No. We have a crime and a cover-up being conducted by the highest levels of power in the Trump administration, all the way up to Donald Trump. That's what America sees. And no amount of talking around it and talking about it is going to fix it. So they got all that going on. Should Todd Blanche release some portion of the video and audio of the interview with Ghislaine Maxwell, who's trying to save her ass from a 20-year sentence? How much of it? Should it be a press conference? Should it be an appearance on Joe Rogan? What should they do? Release the damn files. Don't transfer a sexual predator into a minimum security prison and give her work release. How about that? Release the files, not the pedophiles. How about that? I'll continue to follow it all right here on Legal AF. Take a moment, hit that subscribe button, and I will see you for my next video, first thing on Thursday morning, which is going to be about Trumponomics. First video every day on Legal AF is my breakdown of Trumponomics, which is breaking down. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.